it just seems like more of a Superboy story than a Super Son story than a Superman story, and that's what sort of took me out of it. It was less Lois having a new identity, having the name Smith. I want more a Superman story, not the Super Sons, but I don't think it's gonna work. They got the kid in there, they're playing this up. It's not for me.
I didn't have too much of an issue with it until the cat was killed. Then it became, I said, okay, they're off the rails already. They seem to have this one formulaic plan for character development, and that seems to be that every character must experience some sort of trauma in order to be developed. That's the only way they can have development. If there's no trauma, we have no development. And at this point, it's just like, especially for me, I'm trying to follow along with this logic with these are characters. This is not like a regular person. Even when you do with the regular people, when you look at someone like a Batman, who's just a regular guy, even with a regular character, like just somebody who does, they train a lot like Batman, you see just how dysfunctional these guys are at the end of the day. And I guess that's the attractive thing about them. People like their broken heroes, make them feel better about themselves. But even at the end of the day, they're not necessarily the best people to be in the positions that they are. Batman would probably do a lot better if he had his head on his shoulders and he was using his money towards, solving poverty, that sort of thing, which may be a little bit too meta for what the comics are about. But the bottom line is he's not getting any better. When you decide to extrapolate that and put that onto characters like a Superboy, and this is a young boy, and you're trying to really drum home that these powers are things that, we're not drumming home he's making mistakes, that these powers are dangerous, they're deadly, he's going to kill, all of these other things. And then it wasn't even subtle. His hair actually changed after that whole incident right there. So it becomes for me, it just becomes a real mess because they don't know how to develop characters. They think they don't understand children. I don't think they want to understand children. And then it's so diametrically opposed to what Dan Jurgens was doing in Superman, Lois and Clark, where he was steadily building John's character to the point now when you see him react this way, you have to say, well, what was going on over here? In Superman, Lois and Clark, John's told that he's half alien, he's half Kryptonian, he's from a totally different world. Everything else he's been told has been a lie. So now we bring him over here, and he kills his cat, and that's more traumatic than that's more heavy rather than what he was just told. He doesn't want to go to his parents. He becomes all sullen and moody, and children are. And I think a lot of people don't remember what it was like to be a child or the complexity of it, and so we get these really crap stories.
Well, yeah,
No.
I would agree. Only other thing I would add is that this aspect of which, I guess, bled from television to comics, this idea that kids and people just have a hard time lying. It's like he's having this issue having his secret identity, and they're like, "You're making us lie," and it's like, I don't know, kids flip out about lying, especially to their parents say, "Hey, don't say this to that person," and usually most of the time they listen. It's not really that big deal. It's like, you're hurting me to the core. I can't lie. There's always this George Washington stuff in like TV and now in the Super Son, where he's just like all upset for no good reason. Like, why is he getting so upset about this? At least for me, it's a problem.
He already dealt with this in the Lois and Clark story, where his parents already told him everything, and he said, "Oh, you lied to me," but he was more intrigued after he got past that. He got over that very quickly, which is not to say that it didn't affect him, but to show that his character is not that sort of character. He's not going to be this typical traumatic character that's going to wild out and, this, that, and the other, and you lied to me and I hate you. He's not going to go that route. He's a different sort of person. And they don't want to allow for people to be different. They don't want to seem to allow for a complexity of people. We're supposed to be this complex, species, And at the same point, it's like every character has to follow the same formula. They're all Greek characters. Okay, they have to experience some trauma. After they experience trauma, they're gonna they'll go through anger. Then of course honoring, and then the super dad will give them a hug, and it'll be acceptance. So that whole thing, that's how the whole thing has to go. Unfortunately. But it's such lazy characting. It's so characterization. It's so inconsistent at the end of the day as well. And at this point, it becomes really unentertaining. Anything else these guys that they're all. I mean, literally, everybody has had sort of traumatic experience when they used to be the only character who had that was Batman. Mm-hmm. They've given it to everybody as supposedly that character development. So anything else to say about Superman?
It's not Superman, it's Super Son. But anyway, the only other bit is that we know what we're getting next issue. Him, the little boy, interacting with Wonder Woman or Batman and having some reflection to the father and having these moments, which I don't need to see. That's all I gotta complain about. I don't want it. I don't want any Wally West scenes in this.
You know that you don't really like children, so.
That is not the case.
Well, hey, I mean, I don't have a problem with it because DC is the company of the child superhero. They shouldn't have any problem putting kids into this. To be honest, if you want kids to start reading this again, you're going to have to start making them a viable. You have to start making them a viable aspect of the overall comic community and the comic world that they're creating. Other than that, they're just a liability.
With the having the parent and the son aspect in the comics?
No, I'm not saying you got to do that. I'm not saying that you have to have Superman and his kid, flying around, and I'm going to take out Junior and train him. You don't have to necessarily do that. But we have a character like Robin, and Robin should be a viable character. But they treat Robin more like he's a liability. Or they've gone meta too much with it, where they keep asking the same question. Oh, this is child endangerment. This is like, no, this is fiction in this world. And this kid is so well trained that we don't have to worry about it. Yeah. But then, then make it like our world. So then Joker beating somebody else. So, and then you lose that aspect because you've gone too real with it. You've gone for this adult audience that refuses to allow kids to be in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Robin always was a decent character except for in the Super Friends. But otherwise, I don't know. It's just hard to look at what's going on today. And, we all sort of have an idea what we think would work. But anything that sort of pulls back to the old, people like retro, it's, glad we grew out of that stuff. And it's like, I don't know. We had a lot more readers or something like that. I'm not asking to go all the way back to, Lois Lane trying to figure out who Clark Superman is, that sort of thing, or if Clark Kent Superman.
She already did it in the New 52, and then she told the world.
Yeah, and it was they did it the worst way. So they can't even, I don't know. So yeah, this Superman, I think, I guess it's not even Superman. I think you expressed interest in liking this idea, at least through Dan Jurgens doing it, not through, was it Peter Tomasi? So, I guess...
No, Tomasi's Superman, well, he's the guy who's doing the whole thing with him killing the cat. So that's the other problem they're having in terms of editorial. There needs to be some cohesivity in terms of how they're going to do the characterization.
Yeah.
One guy can't come on and... I'm doing this for 8 issues. And we're not talking about a character like Lobo, where, he's created and this other guy decided, I'm going to do this completely different thing. And it's okay, because, the original stuff didn't matter. This is a character who's being built up, and we know that he's going to matter. He's Superman's son. Yeah. So there has to be some sort of cohesivity that comes along with it. But, hey, like I said, you wanted me, so I'm just going to have to read through and see how well this turns out.
Well, at least you got Action Comics. You can hope for that, right? Have you been liking that? Just the last question. Have you been liking Action? What you've seen in the issues?
Yeah, that's been okay. I'm just a bit hesitant on how it's going to all turn out, but that's been okay so far.
All right. So I don't know if that's an endorsement, people, but I guess it's not an endorsement. Don't read it.
That is not an endorsement.